Hi gamers! With the end of version 2.0 is coming ever closer for Honkai Star Rail, it is about time we review all of the content that is exclusively new to version 2.0. And this includes story, playable characters, world exploration, new enemy varieties, and lastly, the events. Also, by the end of the video, I'm going to give a rating something out of 10 on how good/bad this patch is. Before we start, it would be amazing if you all new viewers could press the subscribe button, as you will be helping me to have a better life, while you will be getting more Honkai Star Rail videos in the future. I thank you all for those who pressed the subscribe button, and I'm sorry for stalling. Let's just get into the review. Story. Oops. If I'm going to talk about the story, of course, there's going to be a spoiler. So spoiler alert, if you haven't finished the main quest and also the companion quest, I really suggest that you close this video or you can skip the story part, which I'm going to put a timestamp for you to skip ahead. I'm not going to great detail on each element of the story, since that might take a very long time, but instead I'm going to point out only things that they did really well, and if there's anything that they could have done better, I will point that out as well. But in my humble opinion, from my experience, I think the plot of the story, it is the best compared to the previous arcs. At least when it comes to introduction, because we have no idea what the ending is gonna be for this particular arc. Here's a few reasons why. For the beginning of Penacony, I think it is very nice since we get this sense of adventuring in a new place and all about having fun, which is quite different from 3 previous places. In Herda Space Station, we get into conflict immediately. In Yarilo 6, we become a wanted fugitive thanks to Kokolia. In Lofu, trouble's already brewing, and we only explore because we had a little bit of time to spare or because we were asked to go to certain places. So this kind of change of pace where at the beginning nothing much is going on and it is really just us going around and seeing things, it's a very nice change of pace, which I really like about that. And also, I really appreciate the fact that we get to meet Fake Sampo and dream about Trash Can and Bellabog, which once again really emphasized the meme of Trailblazer and the Trash Can. I love it when the developers really take this meme to the next level. Such a nice little fun and giggles. And of course, in the beginning we get to meet many people as well, like Aventurine, Firefly, Acheron, Misha, Robin, and Friday. And we only talk to these guys only on surface level out of courtesy, but not too long after, all of the dark side of the planet and the characters start to surface. The first plot that I really enjoy about Penacony arc is being alone in the unknown land. In this particular arc, the majority of the story we are not with our usual group of Astral Express, which we can fully trust. And before Penacony, it is clear who our allies and enemies are, and who might be on neutral or indecisive side. And of course, we have a clear goal on what to do on each planet or each location. But this arc, instead we're being thrown into a situation where everyone has their own agenda and maybe wants to take advantage of us in some way. And our goal, as nameless, is also kind of vague on how we could achieve that. In this way, we pretty much become one with Trailblazer, since this kind of situation is also possible in real world. We are separated from the people that we would call family and being placed with a bunch of strangers that might have some bad intention. So it is normal to be skeptical towards everyone, just like how we would act in real life. Even people that are nice to you might be the ones that will disappoint you the most. And I'm saying that many players are so entranced by the waifus and husbandos and not putting their guard up. Let's trigger a majority of the Honkai Star Rail fanbase, including Firefly in this stranger group since she's still hiding things from us. With once again, people from all over the universe has arrived in Penacony with their own agenda to obtain something from the planet. And I can relate to this experience a lot because I've lived abroad by myself during my youth in 2 different countries for 8 years. And it is hard to trust someone that you just met based on their appearance alone, and of course, the momentary act of kindness that they has given towards you. Which is why I'm really glad that I managed to resonate with this particular lesson from the game. And I hope there are tons of players that are actually able to understand the message they're giving us here. After going through about halfway through the story, we do realize that this story arc is going to a direction that is completely different from before. It has a much darker tone. There's a saying that the brighter something is, the thicker the shadow it produces. This saying really suits Penacony. With how it is supposed to be all about dreams, pleasure, and fun, there's something sinister hidden within. As now, there are kinds of eerie stuff in the core dream of Penacony. And I think the game managed to present it very well through the TV cutscenes when we were attacked by something unto death for the first time. Oh boy, I had goosebumps during that scene. And this complete change of tone can be felt very well. We were having so much fun with Firefly, and all of a sudden, we might end up dying in the dream world. Well, we didn't die, but there are dead people in dream world, and we don't know what are the consequences of dying when it's killed by something unto death in the dream. Not only about death, we've experienced betrayal many times in such a short period of time, be it from Firefly, Black Swan, and possibly Acheron. And to make a comparison, in the last 3 locations, it was all about fighting the bad guys that causes problem in the planet or location. And we know who we need to deal with, maybe except the mastermind, like how we have no idea Ting Yun was possessed by Pentalia. But now, we don't even know who we're fighting against. Is it the creator of something unto death? Is it Aventurine? Is it the masked fool? Is it Sam? Is it Acheron? Or is it the watchmaker? We have no freaking clue. Which is why I really love this first section of Penacony's story. I really hope that all of this unpredictability will be presented all the way until the end of Penacony's story. So probably version 2.3. Last but not least, something I really want to touch about the story is the ambiguity of Misha. I like how in this version, I would say majority of players, I would say based on all of the content creators that I have watched, you barely pay attention to Misha, and it is very sneaky from the developers for making him a 4-star unit and making him having an appearance of a boy. While with all the consideration, he might be the most important character from Penacony arc. And once again, I would say majority of players are too blinded by hot waifu and husbando, and even the apparent death of Firefly and Robin. While in truth, Misha might be the watchmaker or related to them, as from the 4-star light cone, we know that Misha is connected to the Nameless since it is shown he is receiving the Nameless patch from someone. Very intriguing. I really hope by the end of this, Misha will join us in Astral Express. Well, that concludes the story part. I would say I really love how it's going so far. And it can be seen by how people are so dejected when we were presented with the cliffhanger and have to wait for about 7 weeks to see the continuation of the story. I really can't wait to see where the story goes and how the Trailblazer are going to interact with these suspicious people. Oh, before I forget, companion mission is not bad either. The story is mostly told from Black Swan perspective, but the fact that we get to see Sampo again, and he's hinting on something big that's going to happen in Belobog next, I really can't wait to see what will happen in Belobog. I made a video about it, so do check that out as well. And of course, the highlight of companion mission is all about seeing how crazy Sparkle is. A very well written character. Looking forward to see her involvement further in the main story as well. New playable characters. We get 3 new playable characters. As usual, the 5 stars are absolute bonkers of a unit, while the 4-star is relatively strong as well. And the characters are the following. The first one is Black Swan. She's a very powerful dot unit that has unique mechanic of her own that enables a new type of dot that is separate from the standard for dot types. So it really opens up all kinds of dot mechanics for the future. What I really like about her is that she's able to stack a lot of her dot on enemies, while this particular dot also deals damage to adjacent enemies. She addressed one of the problems of dot team at which it deals only 2 enemies with dot stack, and with her, it allows dot to clear mob a lot faster. Once again, overall, Black Swan is a very nicely designed unit that will be beginning of many future dots mechanics. The second new character is Sparkle, another very powerful unit that breaks the mold of Star Rail combat mechanics by enabling higher skill points ceiling for combat. Additionally, she is also a crazy buffer that competes very well against Bronya. that not only provides a lot of damage, but also enabling faster allies action, especially those without speed boots. Now that the developers are willing to break skill point ceiling, it is an advance of future supports that will be able to do this as well. Won't be anytime soon, I imagine though. Maybe once the developers run out of characters for Harmony Path. And lastly, Misha. Another distraction unit. When it comes to ease of use and power level, Misha is still below Jingliu, I would say. But correct me if I'm wrong though. I'm not a build content creator. He enables a unique mechanic of more skill points you have used, the stronger his ultimate will be. Most importantly, he is someone that can help you cheese enemies in Simulated Universe while also dealing tons of damage, much like March 7th. I think as a 4-star unit, he's doing just fine and does perform well enough for those who invest on him. Well, that's all the 3 characters. The next update we're going to have Acheron, Adventuring, and Gallagher. I think all these 3 will also be a very fun and unique characters. I'm especially looking forward for Gallagher, since it feels like he is going to be an offensive healer. World Exploration. The new exploration area is massive, with a lot of things to do. The 3D exploration makes the dungeon section of the exploration to be even more fun, I would say. We have a lot to do as well, from long side quests, mini side quests, treasure hunting, puzzles, mini games, Easter egg, and achievement hunting. There's a lot of mini side activities that you can do, and notably are these 3. The first one is bird hunting. This is a decent side task that relies on audio cue mostly, since the birds are so small to be noticed. It is good that if you can't find them, there's a way that you can spend the gambling currency in order to find out the location of the birds. I personally managed to hunt the majority of them myself, but I had to refer to guides on about 8 to 10 of them, since they were on spots that were very tricky to find. And the second side activities is Hanu Adventure. It is a stealth-based minigame that uses cartoon trope, at which usually the cartoon characters have no weapons and need to use the environment to their advantage. It is okay for now, but I think it can still be improved and expanded upon by having more tools that Hanu can utilize and also expand the map at which you are playing this minigame. Really looking forward to see more of Hanu in the next few updates. The next side activities is Fixing the Clock. It is a very fun puzzle that utilizes moving or rotating blocks and it uses different perspectives in order for you to reach the goal. In terms of brain exercise, this by far my favorite minigames of all Honkai Star Rail puzzles. And speaking of puzzles, smaller puzzles that you see across your adventure are also very fun, with the very classic jigsaw puzzles in order to get treasures or even open up the paths. Well, it reminds me when I played a lot of jigsaw puzzle when I was younger. Sometimes simpler is better. But the one that I really like is the puzzle in the Dream's Edge that you need to do to progress through that area, that involves you changing perspective to a top view, and that particular area becomes distorted as well. A very fun and clever puzzle concepts that works real well with exploration. I really hope that we are going to see more of this kind of puzzle in the future updates, not just on the Dream's Edge. Not only that, the 3-dimension exploration that involves walking on walls and ceiling is very fun and innovative as well. And this kind of counts as a puzzle, which really reminds me of Resident Evil 2 for some reason. And not only that, this is a very effective use of space. It feels like we can walk on any surface available for us in the dungeon. Even though this game is not open world with jump button, it still kinda evokes that sense of open world exploration just for a bit. And at least for me personally, this makes exploration become so much more satisfying. That kinda concludes the exploration part of this review. Let's talk about quests. Personally, I haven't finished all of the quests myself since I kinda want to save it just before 2.1 update is released. But from the one that I have finished, I really enjoy all of them. And there's always something to be learned. I like how they use the mechanics of changing NPC emotion to unlock many new side quests that are very brief but has very impactful life lesson that is worth pondering and lots of fun fluff dialogue. And I believe that moving forward, post Penacony, it would be nice to have a major side quest that is a bit longer and minor side quests that is unlocked via the changing NPC mechanics in the future world as well. Other than side quests, there's a lot of small tasks and Easter eggs which makes achievement hunting seems to be very fun, which I think is still Honkai Star Rail's strongest point when it comes to providing entertainment during the world exploration, which I'm going to list a few. The first one is in-game gacha. Who doesn't like gacha? And the fact that they even put a light cone as a prize for this gacha is bonkers. Which I'm really very impressed on how Honkai Star Rail has made the light cone system to be more free-to-play friendly, since you can just use the in-game currency to purchase them or even obtain some of them through exploration. Let me trigger our neighbor fanbase. Genshin really ought to give us more free 4-star weapons through exploration. Genshin could never, right? Well, jokes aside, I seriously think that this is a fair criticism since Genshin exploration reward is kinda poor compared to some other open world game like Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But I digress, this can be a longer topic for another day. Other than that, there are a bunch of really fun achievement hunting. Just to list a few, the telephone one, it is a fun fluff text that shows more sides of characters that we have known through their dreams. And you get 2 achievements if you manage to go through all the telephones. And then there's the balloon popping. There's a balloon that is out of reach normally that you can pop, and it will give a reference to Hoyoverse games. And I think there are 4 of them. And another favorite of mine is the ominous clock. Star Rail always like to put this kind of ominous small interaction, which by itself can be classified maybe as a small side quest. But this ominous clock really reminds me of what they did back in Bellabog with the crazy guy behind the fence, and also the one in Rivet Town about a girl with a ribbon, which I think is a Bloodborne reference. I had goosebumps when I draw the parallel between that small interaction with the Bloodborne side quest. I wonder if there are also another reference from other works that I've seen so far but just don't recognize. Overall, I'm very satisfied with the exploration that they have given us along with Penacony. Lots of rewards, lots of fun, and lots of lessons to learn. Next is the event. The event may be on the weaker side since the devs are focusing so much more on the story and the world exploration, but I think this version has released the most fun combat event so far, which I'm going to explain shortly. So here are the following events. The first one is the combat event. As I've said, it's my favorite combat event so far, since you need to satisfy a specific condition in order for you to receive buffs that you will need in order to clear the final challenge. Also, each challenge is designed to be tackled by different kinds of teams, dots, shield, AoE, etc. I really like the fact that you're encouraged to use different kinds of teams in order to get the full reward of each challenge. I can see this can be somewhat implemented into the real fiction in the future, but also I won't be surprised if this implemented into another permanent challenge in the future. And the second event is the Hanu event. Overall, it's pretty nice as well because you're doing a harder version of the puzzles / minigames that currently available in Penacony. And as I've mentioned, the puzzles of Penacony are a lot of fun and makes you use your brain, which I really love doing. And once again, the clock puzzles being my favorite. The next event is the food event. It is an exchange from cheap materials for stellar jades, but they do have nice flavor text accompanied with the rewards, which is always nice to see. Just something small towards the end of the patch for easy stellar jades. It is always welcome, better than nothing. And the last event that I want to mention is the task event. It is basically an extra reward for doing things that you're going to do anyway in the new region, like killing this many enemies, clearing the KKaceh, the Cavern of Corrosion, the Stagnant Shadows. So it's just bonus rewards that you can get by doing things that you will do anyway. So it's just a bonus reward that is always welcome to have. Better than nothing. So yeah, the events for 2.0 update, nothing too great, nothing too exciting. which kind of reminds me of the version 1.0 events that only has the boxing event. So I would say 2.0 update is better than 1.0 update. But after 2.0 update, we should be back with more events that is more engaging, exciting, has a little bit of stories, and I would assume it would be another permanent event. At the very least, the Memory of Chaos and Pure Fiction cycles are still very fun to challenge. And the last section of this review is enemy. I'm very pleased that we get quite many varieties of enemies ready for a new world. If you don't miss any enemies, there should be about 11 enemies for this update, and I'm going to briefly talk about each enemies. Number 1 is Lord Trashcan. I like how they add more enemies that give Stellar Jade when it comes to exploration. It is not as many as the Warp Trotter. And I like how this monster has special mechanics, and it is all about breaking toughness bar as soon as possible. Otherwise, they will kick our ass because they deal a lot of damage. They're very well designed enemies, I would say. And once again, embracing the meme. And the next enemy is Sam. Oh boy, this guy is freaking scary. Especially if you're not well prepared. Not for the whales, of course. During his normal mode, he doesn't do that much damage. But we also can't reduce his toughness bar. But once he switched to his flame mode, that makes him able to take toughness damage, and also we will be able to deal a lot of damage once enough skill points are used. However, during this mode, we will be under restriction at which we take damage every time we use our skill points or take actions, while at the same time, our healing is also reduced. So shield up. I nearly got my ass kicked in the story fight the first time I was fighting Sam. I like that he has this really tough mode that he barely takes damage, but also doesn't deal that much damage. And once he's ready to take a lot of damage, we are being put in a very risky situation, and we need to disable him fast, or he will kick our ass. This kind of mechanics what makes Honkai Star Rail boss to be really fun. Since many turn-based RPG games, it's just boss dealing damage, and there's no further strategy other than healing, attacking, or buffing. And Honkai Star Rail boss fights are a lot more complicated than that. Can't wait to fight him again in the simulated universe. The next enemy is also something really fun, is Something Unto Death. This enemy can be very annoying, but also really makes you strategize ahead, especially the first time you fight this guy. Who are you going to sacrifice to be hit with the instant death skill? You must also know what your characters do, while also ensuring if we sacrifice those two characters, can we still survive until we manage to free them from the enemy. So you need to pay extra attention to your health, while also making sure that the DPS is not being hit by the instant death move. Overall, a very scary boss, but once you understand the mechanics, it is really fun, and I'm really looking forward to see this enemy in the simulated universe as well. There are still smaller enemies, and they are the following. First is the monkey, a pretty nice enemies that you can hard counter by bringing a shielder. Otherwise, you are in a lot of hurt since there's a chance that this guy can one-shot your DPS. And once you have Adventuring, this guy is going to be much easier enemies to deal with since it is also weak to Imaginary. It is a nice enemy that incentivizes you to bring a shielder. Next is the Dino enemy, another enemy that can deal tons of damage to us if it is not fought properly. It has a gimmick of self-harming once it is hit enough. Otherwise, you will be in a lot of hurt. Having a dot team really makes short work of this enemy though, since each dot ticks counts as one hit, and it will self-harm after being hit 6 times. Very fun enemy overall. Next is the TV enemy. This is an enemy that can really help or ruin your Pure Fiction run. I really like that if you can keep this enemy in the right mode, it will give you energy, otherwise it will deal AoE damage and reduce your party energies. It is great that there's an enemy with this kind of mechanics that will benefit you greatly or ruin your run greatly. Next enemy is the wolf. This is very similar to the Lofu wolf. I think it is more fair as it explodes. It does increase the enemy speed, but also it will deal damage to the adjacent enemies as well. Lofu wolf, on the other hand, is annoying since they fast forward the adjacent enemies by 100%. The next enemy is the Golem. This mechanic has a lot of potential to be carried out to other enemies, especially the medium-sized bosses, since having a shield that can only be broken if the toughness bar is broken can really be obnoxious if implemented on medium bosses. It incentivizes to bring the right team to tackle this particular enemy, which I think it's great in the future when there are more characters are available for all players. There are still 3 more enemies, but they're nothing major to mention. There's the bat, the tiny dice, and the floating thing, I don't know what to call them. They only have one type of attack that deals debuff at the same time. They don't pose much threat, but if kept being attacked, it will be quite annoying, especially in the pure fiction mode. That's all the enemy that have been added into version 2.0. I'm quite satisfied with the enemy varieties that we get, but knowing there are more enemy skeleton exist already in the game, I wish there are just a few more enemies that they could have added, especially more organic enemies, since many of them looks very robotic, even though Penacony is a dream world, so I was expecting more crazy design that is similar to Something Unto Death, which I personally really like. So yeah, that's all of the review. There's a lot happening with this update. As usual, it is better to not rush through the content, and that way you can manage to process all of 2.0 Penacony experience better, like how I do it. Since by rushing, you will end up not remembering many things, since many events are happening quite close to each other. So, if you want to compare this update to the other updates, I would give this version 9 out of 10, with the weak point of not having a crazy fun events. But honestly, the hype that they built really met the expectation, I would say. Alright, that's all I want to say about Penacony review. I'm just mostly touching the surface of the update. I can go in details about the story, enemies, exploration, and etc. But that will take too much time. And a small channel like me usually doesn't benefit much from making a very long video. So if you want to hear a long video, subscribe to my channel and help me reach 500 subs by the end of March and 1,000 subs by the end of 2024. Once I'm able to monetize the channel, I will start making about 1 hour long videos discussion, talking things in details, since there's a lot more incentive once I reach that point. Once again, thanks so much for watching. Till the next video, stay sharp gamers.